Okay, I bet she. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm like.
What excites you about architecture? How did you get here?
It would have been good to see that though.
I think it's supposed to be a surprise and answer honestly.
Oh, okay.
For me, it was a really brilliant blend of kind of art and science and expression.
I thought I was getting like an analog teleprompter.
Can you tell me about the research that you're working on now?
Read off Cuse. Yeah.
Are we sitting?
Sitting down, yes.
Okay.
I get the couch. You're right there. Oh, this is exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself for the people that don't know you?
Sure, so I'm Nina Wilson. I'm an assistant professor at the Syracuse University School of Architecture. I teach advanced building systems, building technologies courses at the School of Architecture. I also teach integrated design studios, and I advise thesis students both at the undergraduate level but also at the graduate level. I also advise students from within engineering and other related fields due to the interdisciplinary nature of my work.
What excites you about architecture? How did you get here?
When I was younger, I would volunteer a lot in my teen years for Habitat for Humanity, and so I got to build a lot of housing for low-income people. This was back in San Antonio in Texas, so we'd be out there swinging hammers in the summer heat in Texas, and it was great. I was always building stuff with my dad kind of growing up too. And so I really learned a love of how things work, how they go together, and what the power of the environment is around us. And for me, it was a really brilliant blend of kind of art and science and expression, and there was all of this kind of cultural language that gets woven into it. Now I'm much more focused on the technology aspects of things and the building science aspects. Really challenging us to find new ways to build, to craft materials, to source materials, and new ways to think about things like recycling and circularity as concepts in the built environment in the way that we haven't before. So that continues to excite me and surprise me really every day.
I can hear the passion behind your voice. It's very predominant. Can you tell me about the research that you're working on now a little bit in like a layman's terms, like a brief overview?
Sure. One aspect of my research is really about deep energy retrofits. So retrofitting or renovating buildings, and particularly in New York State and all across the Northeast, where we have a lot of building stock that is older than 100 years old. And so a lot of us operate these buildings, live in these buildings, occupy these buildings, and many of them are quite leaky and have air quality and moisture issues. Part of my research is about developing approaches to, in a cost-effective way, retrofit or update these buildings to make them more energy efficient, to improve the indoor air quality, to improve things like thermal comfort in the building. All of these things have an impact on things like cognitive performance, mood, other kinds of performance. That's really important to me.
Why is interdisciplinary collaboration so important at Syracuse?
It was one of the things that really drew me to Syracuse University when I came here in 2019. It was evident to me right away that there were people here who were eager, not only not resisting, but eager to actually work outside of their departments and outside of their disciplines. Many of the problems that we face today with which we engage and that we use our kind of research methodologies to approach, the way that we do that within, kind of conventionally and historically within our disciplines, is really insufficient to comprehensively and holistically address these large, complex problems. Things like the way that climate change is starting to affect us and how we have to develop responses to that in the built environment, for example.
How do you feel that when your relationship with students, when you're teaching, what do you love the most? Describe your relationships with them and former students even.
Oh my gosh, so I keep in touch with many of my former students. Our students at SU are really brilliant. I know that I'm biased in saying that a bit, but I really admire and I have enormous respect for the dedication of our students and the enthusiasm with which they approach not only kind of learning in the classroom environment, but also their attitude towards research. As you may know, I do integrate some of my research into my teaching and vice versa. So I do involve students who are in my classes in full-scale research activities. And so they're welcome to visit and to supervise from a safe distance, of course, construction activities, but to see how buildings are put together is so critical to me to an architectural education. In architectural technology, things are developing quite quickly. We're introducing things like digital fabrication, the idea of being able to 3D print a building from the ground up, right? Prefabrication, being able to develop components that are then brought to site and put together. So for students to be exposed to the way that that works firsthand and to be able to observe it and to be part of it, again, that response has been really overwhelming. Our students want to be leaders when they graduate. That's why they attend Syracuse University. They want to be leaders, thought leaders, practice leaders, design leaders, technology leaders in their field.
Your classes have taught me what I love about architecture and what I love about this specific field, and although it just seems like its own specific, it reaches out to so many others, and I appreciate that about your work. And we've talked a lot about like student excitement and their joy. What are your joys? What are your hobbies?
I don't want to be boring and say that I love my work and that's all there is. I do think it's important, for people operating in this space to have balance. I do spend time on, things like developing my own areas of interest that are kind of peripheral to architecture. So I do spend time on things like crafts and construction, and sometimes I build furniture when I have enough time to do that. When I'm not doing architecture or design related things, I like to garden. I love cooking and kind of hosting dinners and things like that. And then to handle the stress, sometimes I do kind of high impact sports.
Oh.
So that helps me to blow off steam when things get stressful.
And then as a final question, I have that project due tomorrow. Do I get extra credit for this? Or an
Absolutely.
A? Thank you, Nina, for coming and speaking with me about you and your works and Syracuse. I really enjoyed this talk.
Thank you.
Good?